Welcome back. Today I'm going to start working on getting down to my valves so that I can do the valve adjustment. As always, I like to show people how to work on the Triumph Tiger 900. A lot of this stuff I'm going to end up doing for the first time, so we'll kind of work through it together. Obviously, to get down to the valves, we're going to have to take this tank off. So there's going to be several steps to get the plastics off the tank. You actually have to release pressure in the fuel line so that fuel doesn't spray everywhere when you disconnect. Some of these plastics will come off. So we'll get started on that. One of the things I'd like to show you is the manuals. A lot of people have been asking, where do you get the manuals for the step-by-step process of how to do a lot of the work on the bike. Unfortunately, they don't have a print manual. What they do have is an online catalog of manuals, and you can find that at www.triumphtechnicalinformation.com. You do have to get a subscription. The old tritune.net system they had was about $8–9 per hour, was sort of the smallest subscription you could get. Now for this bike, you plug in your VIN, it'll pull up the specs for your bike, it'll have all the service recalls, service bulletins, things like that, and all the manuals, really everything you could ever want as far as documentation. And it's $8.32 per month. That's a hell of a deal right there. Unfortunately, I haven't figured out how to print. I love having print pages I can use in the shop, because having your laptop in the shop when you've got tools and chemicals and things moving around, not always the best idea, but we'll work through it. So I'll show you that here in a second. That way you have kind of an idea of what the layout looks like and how to navigate a little bit for what you're looking for. All right, so when you get to your TriumphTechnicalInformation.com website, you'll have to make a profile if you haven't done one already. And you plug in the VIN when you download your subscription, and your home page kind of looks like this. You can also do model search, by model name, year, and that'll give you the manuals for things if you don't know your exact VIN. We do know the VIN here. So I see there's a service bulletin it's like repacking a fuse. So we'll probably do that while we're here too. Safety recalls. This is for a rear reflector that I don't even have on the bike anymore, so I'm not worried about that. Down here you're going to find your service manuals, your list of tools. If you have like service data sheets, you can pull up here. Prep guide, technical bulletins, if there are any for your bike, safety recalls, stuff like that. Ownership. This is owner literature. That's stuff that you probably got in your package when you bought the bike. And there's all this other stuff. You can kind of read through it. It also has service history. If you take your bike to the dealership for service, this will have a history of that. As you can see, mine was just the initial service when I bought the bike. I don't normally let those guys work on my bike too often. What I have noticed though is that it's just the service history. Even though I've taken my bike in to have the forks rebuilt, they don't show that as being done on there. So we're going to go back to documents and service manuals. We'll click on our service manual here, and on the left you have the table of contents, and as you click on these, it'll open up to the right side of the screen here with other things. We're looking for some service stuff, routine maintenance, scheduled maintenance. Okay, we're going to go down, we're going to find valve clearance and measurement. Obviously we're going to measure it first. So then you'll see here it's got what your specs are for what the clearance is supposed to be. Obviously we have to get down there first though. So we'll click on camshaft recover, or camshaft cover removal, and then it gives us a list of things that we have to do in order to get the camshaft cover off. And as you click on each one of these, it'll give you that section for what to do. So obviously we got rider seat removal. Okay, I think we all know how to do this at this point, but it is one of the things you have to do. One cool thing I like about this, I haven't played with it too much because I usually read off of it just as you see it here, but up here to the top right, you can see there's a button for step by step. So step by step, you can click on it as you go. This is pretty cool. It helps keep you where you're supposed to be in the process. So you'll see, to remove the rider seat, remove the passenger seat, da, 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 da. And you can continue through and get each of the warnings, and it tells you what to do. Grasp the seat on either side, slide it rearwards and upwards. Okay, you can do all that. It has the pictures, you can click step by step, or you can just do it from the standard display where they have kind of all of it in one page. So that's cool. We're going to start with that, the rider seat removal. Then we have to disconnect the battery. Then we go into fuel tank removal. Now when you get to fuel tank removal, some of these steps you'll see they repeat: seat removal, battery stuff. But then you have some additional steps before you can actually remove the tank. So it's a little bit of a jump around to get through all of it, but you know, most of it you'll probably click on it and you'll see like, oh, I got to take that off, no big deal. Like the seat panels, if you haven't taken these off before, these have to be removed in order to change out your air filter, which is also part of the service. Some people try to change them out more often, or for what they consider high performance parts. That's not what I'm here for, but we will show how to take those off. And since replacing the air filter is part of the 12,000 mile service kit, we will be doing that. We just may not focus on it too much. But there you have, you know, kind of a basic overview of how their website works now. Like I said, it's for one bike, it's, I believe it was $8.32 per month. I believe it automatically renews, which is fine by me. That's not too, that's like a Netflix account. The other option is multiple bikes. I think for 2 bikes, it's only like $12 and something. So it's a little bit of a break on the price once you get beyond your first bike. But I only have the one, unfortunately. I'd love to have more, but we'll see as time goes on. So there's the website. This is what I'll be referring to for all the steps in order to get down to my valve clearance, and then do that. And then we'll show you on video some of the bigger, more important steps about how to take the readings and then make the adjustments. You take your seats off, make sure to disconnect your seat heaters if you have them. And just set those aside. Then we're gonna take our toolkit out. Good old, barely functional toolkit. This is where your dongle goes if you're gonna do a ECM scan, or if you're resetting the service indicator. That's in another video of mine. And later, I'm hoping to do the throttle balancing. I looked at the process in the manual. It doesn't look all that bad. It's just a matter of whether or not I can read the mat pressure of each throttle body on my kit here. So I'll get back to that later. So now we're gonna get down in here and we're gonna disconnect the battery, and then we will start to pull side panels off. These connectors are offset, so getting them plugged back in the correct order shouldn't be too difficult without marking them. Normally, if it would be difficult to tell which one went where, I'd mark them so they go back in the same place, especially with LEDs, because they have to be wired in a specific order. You can't just plug them in any old which way like the old incandescent. Okay, so you see there's 2 more Allen screws back here we're going to take out. It's going to be this one here and this one here. You'll see a 3rd one back here, but that actually goes to the tank, so you don't have to worry about that one. It's just these 2. Well, it says lift upwards and forwards, but I'm feeling that at least it seems like it's caught on these brackets up here. I may have to add an additional step and take those off, otherwise it's probably going to break. And we don't want that, so yeah, why don't we do that? We'll take out these brackets here, and that way it'll lift off. lift that out. Two screws, little inside panel comes off, and then this pushers forward to release. These screws that attach the fuel tank to the frame, it says to discard them as if you're going to replace them. I don't really see a need to. I'll just reuse these screws and put on some Loctite. But in any case, you can replace them if you want to. This is also a good time to take off these knee bashers. I think they're affectionately called, that nobody seems to like. I think I'm going to take it off, and I'll hang on to the parts just in case I decide to put them back on, but I think it would actually look better and maybe avoid some of the pain. Maybe just pop that off. Clean that up a little bit, and then just kind of exposes the frame a little bit more. I think that'll look good. So we'll do the same thing to the other side. Screw to the fuel tank to the frame, and then the two upper cowling screws. You're not actually taking this piece off, it looks like. You're just taking the screws off where it attaches to the gas tank. So we'll do that, and then we have to lift the tank There's an additional step where I believe we have to plug the battery back in so that we can relieve some of the fuel pressure in one of the fuel lines. And I'll go back over that with you once I get there. All right, so we've disconnected 2 cables there from the fuel pump. Not the fuel line yet, but the next step is the drain hose. And it's kind of hard to see back in there, but it's the little one that attaches to the fuel tank itself. I'll try to point it out here. So this one here, it goes up, and we're just going to disconnect that. That's like the filler neck drain hose. We'll disconnect that, and then we'll move on to the next step. Alright, it's got some warnings about this next step. This is where you're actually disconnecting the fuel rail. You can read all the warnings, but essentially it says that it's likely to be pressurized, and if you try to disconnect it, it could spray fuel everywhere. So this is the part where it says reconnect the battery, briefly crank the engine to reduce the fuel pressure in the fuel rail, disconnect the battery, and then you can ease the double check clip latch away from the connector until the release buttons are exposed. Disconnect the fuel hose by squeezing both sides of the connector and pulling the hose free from its spigot on the fuel pump plate. Disconnect the vent hose from the rear evaporator canister. I'm not sure all models have that, but if it does, just take that little hose off, disconnect it. Disconnect the purge hose from the front of the evaporator canister, and then you can remove the fuel tank. So the most important step here is we got to plug the battery back in, crank the engine to bleed off the fuel pressure, and then we can disconnect the line. All right, so I'm gonna push this clip down. You can also use a little flat tip to just get under here and wedge it down if it's kind of stuck. But you don't have to go very far, just far enough to expose the buttons on the side. There's one on each. And then it says press in on the buttons and pull it away from the spigot. Okay, so I just found that if you're going to push the buttons in, then push onto the spigot before you pull off, that kind of helps release it. You can see the spigot there, and then this is the fuel rail that we had to crank the engine to release the pressure. So we've done all that. I just didn't show you the reconnecting the battery and cranking the engine. So there's that. Then we're going to move on to removing the remainder vent lines from the fuel tank and canister, stuff like that, and then we'll pull this tank off. All right, got all our electrical lines undone. As you can see, I used a little ratchet strap to kind of hold the tank up while I worked on disconnecting hoses. Now that we've got it all disconnected, should just lift back and up, out.